With the coming release of Arknights comes with 4 brand new egos, which were revealed in the trailer that released about a week back. If you haven't watched it, somehow, if you're an Olympus fan, they were pretty damn cool. And today, we're just gonna be reviewing those ego kit reveals that revealed a week later. A theme that you will see with a lot of these egos is that a lot of them really like to be used consecutively. Now, we haven't exactly seen egos in Limbus that particularly enjoy being used repetitively. Like, we've seen Torakagia. Of course, Torakagia, if you use it multiple times, you're going to be stacking up Nebulizer, Deep Breath. If I remember what that stat is called, I do believe it's called Deep Breath. When you stack Deep Breath, you gain even more effects. For Ryoshu, I believe it's a Nebulizer kind of effect. You gain Poise Count if you use Resonance for all allies. For Faust, you have healing per time per turn for every single ally, depending on how much resonance you have. So you have these egos that if you use back to back or if you fulfill the conditionals, you get even more of this status that they have, and so they get more and more powerful with their passive. We've also seen egos like, of course, healing. If you want to heal multiple times, you can just spam Fluid Sack and get even more healing. What we haven't seen are egos that have their own like base ego. The effects on that ego rather than the passive actually improve based on their particular status that you want to stack. And a lot of these egos, they have that quality to them. This kind of Torakagia effect, except actually integrated into their base kit instead, and also having some other passive. So the first of these egos we're going to be looking at is the Welfare ego for Ishmael, Title Elegy. It's a he ego. First things first, straight off the bat, I don't know this character. I haven't played Arknights in a very long time. I think I've only played it for like 2 weeks before I dropped it, and I believe a month afterwards, the Limbus collab was announced, and I still didn't go back. So I wouldn't be able to explain much about who this is on the ego, but I can definitely tell you the Limbus, implications of this ego. First, if we even get into the kit, is the fact that it's a Gloom He ego. Now, the Gloom part doesn't really matter, but the He part does matter. He egos for Ishmael, if I remember correctly, are Scarred Meat, which is the fairy ego from Walpurgis, the one that heals and reuses based on if you hit coin set or not. And the other He ego is Ardor Blossomoff, yes. And Ardor Blossomoff in its own right is an extremely high clashing ego skill, one of the highest clashing skills in the game, that has a okay-ish nuke. And so you have the competitors being a decent nuking tool, another decent nuking tool, except this time it's based on more clashing, and the other ego that was Walpurgis has some sustained elements to it. Now, this ego, we'll get into it a little bit, but that's the competition for this ego. And so keep that in mind while you're like just looking at the kit of this ego. This is one of the few egos that, well, the only ego that doesn't have the theme of you want to be using this every single time to get a certain status. This is more like a very vanilla ego that doesn't have a lot of effects. Alright, so Title Elegy, first things first, the main thing about this ego is that it deals more damage with Gloom Resonance. You're focused on using Gloom Resonance, and if you use Gloom Resonance, you get even more damage. And if the target is killed, then you also deal sinking damage based on the remaining sinking after the division of X to a random amount of enemies. So similar effect to, I believe, to be Miracala Mere Salt. If you remember correctly, Miracala Mere Salt, when you kill with his ego, he does less damage, if I remember correctly, less damage or just pure damage based on the bleed potency you had on that target and the excess of it. And so this is similar to that effect, except it divides it first. Another unique effect about this ego is the fact that it actually, like, if the target has Gloom Resistance, this is the first of its kind, by the way, if the target has Gloom Resistance, it deals even more damage. So interestingly enough, oh, sorry, I got that mixed up. If the target has less Gloom Resistance, then this actually deals even more damage. So it's capitalizing on the fact that they have even less Gloom Resist, and so it deals even more Gloom Resist. So if you have a target that has normal Gloom Resist, I don't think this is going to be doing that much. But I'm pretty sure this ego is going to be like, oh, if the target has higher than 0.8, then you gain a certain amount of damage up. Other than that, not much to say about here. General effects, sinking, tremor for some reason, a little bit of bind, and you just gain sinking if they get staggered. And you have tremor burst. So not a lot of effects that are too interesting. The only thing to note is the very unique effect of, oh, the target has less gloom resistance, then deal even more damage. Other than that, really not much to say. This is to be expected, in my opinion, of a welfare ego that is given out for free. They're going to be very vanilla, they're not going to have very strong effects, very flashy ones, and so this is pretty expected for a welfare ego. So not much to say there. Her passive is that if there's a single enemy, you just gain even more damage, and when this unit is substituted in, you just gain min and max speed and clash power. So this is clearly just Seichin Ishmael. Very negligible effects, in my opinion. Like min and max speed for like only one turn, and clash power, it really isn't going to be doing much. So really negligible effects, not much to say about here. For corrosion, exact same thing. All you do is you just deal the exact same amount of effects, sinking, tremor. Also, you have gloom fragility. Again, not that good of an effect. It's just not that worth it to use corrosion. You don't have much incentive to as well. But the thing is, after you attack, you also give blunt damage up, so similar effect to blind obsession in a much lower scale without the pierce damage, and you also just have gloom damage up as well. So very non-flashy effects. It can be useful, but it's not as flashy as other egos, especially since it's after attack. If this was before attack, you would actually buff your own ego and that would be much better, but because it's after attack, you don't really get that bonus as well. Okay, so again, not much to say here. However, before the attack, you do gain some effects, which is you have attack weight and more damage based on your resonance. If it's gloom resonance, you have even more attack weight and more damage. So yeah, very, very simple ego. I wouldn't say that this has potential to be that good. I'd say it's decent. Compared to its competition, Ishmael's he egos in the first place aren't too flashy. Like, it's not as important as like Rodion, Roseate Desire, right? Not that level of importance. I'd say it's like, it's okay to have. Like, it can shine sometimes, but it's definitely not character defining. I think this ego is another to that batch of like non-defining egos, and I don't think it has the potential to be that overpowered. I think it's definitely solid if you do get it, but I'm not sure if you're gonna have a bunch of like really cool clutch moments of it. And so, this ego, I don't really expect much from it. To be expected from welfare ego, not much to say. Next up, an ego that has a lot more effects. We have Command Meltdown Faust, and it's a gluttony he ego. Unlike Ishmael's ego competition, Faust's ego's competition is at an all-time high. The he section for Faust has always been in a competition. It's always been a deadlock. You've had Fluid Sac, its predecessor, and then you had Dorakagia trying to replace it. You had so many things trying to replace it. A bunch of healing egos trying to replace it. You had Fluid Sac, Dorakagia, and now you have Command Meltdown Faust. So all these different egos. I'm pretty sure I'm not remembering a specific one. Is it Lasso Faust? No, that's a Tef ego. Okay, wait, no, it's Alleyway Watchdog. No, yeah, it's Alleyway Watchdog, which is not a healing ego and suffers because of that. And so the competition for Faust he ego has been long debated upon. Not debated, but long contested upon by Project Moon themselves, releasing a lot of these different he egos that all try to heal and do the same thing as Fluid Sac. This ego is another to that pile and is absolutely no different. Gluttony ego, which doesn't really matter that much because it doesn't inflict that much rupture. This ego is more catered towards. This ego is much more catered towards using it as a generalist, and we'll see how. So it's a single coin skill, right? It's a single coin skill. It's probably gonna have a high base and a high ceiling, but because it's single coin, it doesn't mean it probably wouldn't mean that. It probably does mean that it won't deal at that much damage. And so we can already tell from the single coin that this ego isn't really meant to deal that much damage. It's probably going to do a decent amount. You've seen these damage conditionals over here, final power, but it's definitely not going to be your main damage dealer or nuke, right? You wouldn't expect anything from this. But the main use of it is to get hardened shell barrier. And when you gain hardened shell barrier, you actually gain defense level up and you gain protection when you're hit, similar to Sunshower Heathcliff. Now the thing about this is that although it says turn and lose stack, on the passive, which is just Doctor for some reason, I'm sure the character is probably a Doctor, but I don't know. I don't know much about Arknights. Turn N, if the last ego you use is Command Meltdown, then you only lose a little bit of a stack of Hardened Shell Barrier. And because you gain Hardened Shell Barrier from using this ego, that means it's going to be active. And so this effect down here doesn't really matter until you actually use a different ego. So already that's a very unique effect. But moving on, what does that actually do? I mean, we already said what it does, but we'll see in the passive later. But the rest of the thing that this ego does on use with the base ego effects, you heal your allies, of course, but not to the extent of Fluid Sac. You actually heal your allies, not every single ally, because it says heal Y other allies instead. And so this specifies that you're going to be healing only a set amount of allies, not everyone. And so unlike Fluid Sac, this ego is going to be only healing like 4, maybe 5 or 3 people instead of the usual like infinite 7. And also, you also gain extra healing if you actually are not on max HP, because this effect where you heal multiple different allies, it only activates on max HP. And so the issue with this is if you're damaged at least once, you're not going to be having anywhere near Fluid Sac's healing output on use. Underline on use. But if you are damaged, you heal yourself and the lowest HP ally with the ego, and that's nice and all. The effects don't matter, it's Disruption Burn. So with Hardened Shell Barrier, even though the healing output on use isn't that much, if you look at the passive, it's similar to the Torakagia Foss, where you have healing over time. Turn Star heals Scythe an ally with the lowest AP percentage by Hardened Shell Barrier stack HP of this unit's max HP. So every time you have Hardened Shell Barrier on Foss, turn N, you actually heal them. And if that ally is on max HP, then you heal other allies instead. And so similar to Torakagia Foss, where you have AoE per turn healing and you have healing over time rather than an on-use healing that Fluid Sac has, you gain the health over time, slowly but surely. And so you have this very overtime value-oriented effect. Now, the unique thing about this, a very minor unique thing about this, is that if they are at a very low HP or if they're staggered, then you gain even more healing. So that's a very little like bonus effect there. Not enough to justify like fully overthrowing the others. But just looking at the base ego, right? You can see how it has. I mentioned earlier, Fluid Sac on use healing, potentially Fluid Sac on use healing, not anywhere close to it, and you also have Torakagia over time healing. These two effects, when you have Fluid Sac and you have Torakagia, this ego is somewhere in the middle of them, being like a sort of hybrid between the two. Is it better than the two? No, I think they have their own uses. I forgot to mention this, but it also heals SP for other allies. Not every single ally. Again, similar to another effect, not every single ally, but also includes this unit. So you can like try to chain this if you want. But Fluid Sac, I believe, still remains the strongest on-use healing possible, other than Garnet of Thorns Gregor. I think Fluid Sac is still very strong if you're looking for on-use healing. Torakagia Foss is also very, very good because you can keep having resonance and you still heal over time for every single ally. And that's very strong. But this ego, for the cost of being a hybrid, you can't heal all allies. But you have both value-oriented effects, SP heal for spam, which Torakagia Foss doesn't have, and you have potentially group heal. But it's probably going to be single target heal because you're going to get damage on Foss. So, overall, I'm definitely interested to see the numbers. If the numbers are good, there is gonna be like a reason to actually prefer this over the others. Because right now, you can use whatever you want, right? Just depending on what you want to play. Torakagia Foss, probably you only want to play them in a Pride team. But this versus Fluid Sac, I think it's just up to preference. And the effect here doesn't really matter that much. It's just defense level up. Right, so it does make FAFs a little more tanky for that turn, but it's not going to be doing anything game-changing. So overall, from the impression of this ego, it's pretty good. A healing ego for Foss, always very good. SP heal for a bunch of allies, healing over time. I'm just curious to see how this plays into Fluid Stack. Now for the corrosion. The corrosion this time is actually made for damage. You have attack rate based on high resistance. You also gain the hardened shell barrier as usual. You also activate this effect, so you're still gonna be healing after this. But the thing about this ego is that if you literally don't kill the target, you just take HP damage, which is pretty funny. But you gain shield for it. I do believe the shield lasts presumably forever. I believe presumably forever. And the reason why this is good is because you can heal it up. And so you can have this gigantic type of shield, and then you have like negative 80 HP from that effect. You can heal back that 80 HP and still have the shield HP on top of that. So very nice effect for that, especially with the fact that you're healing with this ego in the first place anyway. And you also gain just damage up, general damage up, rupture count, burn, general stuff. So the effect of this ego doesn't really matter that much. Oh yeah, coin start. That's very interesting, coin start. But you also deal more damage if the target doesn't die. So very unique effect here, making Foss a lot tankier. You can use this as a nuke and a way to get even more tankier, while this is used more as healing, not that much for tankiness. Because this tankiness, depending on how much hardened shell barrier you're getting, it's not going to be that good. Again, it depends on numbers, of course. But from the looks of it, it's not going to be anything huge. Right? It's definitely going to be very good for making Foss tanky, but it's not going to be anything gigantic, enormous. So that's it for my overall impressions of Command Melt on Foss. Next up on the list, we have To Remain Oneself Honglu, which I will just say immediately is my top 2 favorite out of the other 2. By the way, it's ordered in terms of like my favorite. Ishmael is my least favorite effects, and Foss is my 3rd favorite. Honglu is my 2nd, and what we'll see later is my 1st. So Honglu is actually a very, very simple ego compared to the others. Not a lot of depth to it. Very basically, it's a poised pride ego, where the goal is you want to use this ego, and then you gain the status Thunderer. So when you use this ego, you gain Thunderer. And this lasts until next turn, and on the next turn, you want to use Thunderer. You want to use Thunderer again to remain once. You want to use. Sorry, I'm misspeaking right over here. You want to use this ego again, and if you use this ego again while you have Thunderer, which again turn end lose stack, so you want to use it immediately the next turn, you actually activate Higher Thunder, and if you have Higher Thunderer, you gain even more effects, and you deal even more damage. And after you have Higher Thunderer, you use it again, and if you have Higher Thunderer, you deal even more damage. So the goal of this ego is to use the ego 3 times. I would love to say 2 times, but the issue is you have this effect right over here, where you need to have Thunderer first. So the first turn, and it's after effect too. So the first turn, you're going to be using this and you get Thunderer. The next turn you get Higher Thunderer, and the next turn you have the Higher Thunderer to affect this effect. So it slowly levels up. So you have the base ego, and if you have Thunderer, you can attack weight. Okay, so after you use it for the first time, the next time you use it on the next consecutive turn, you get even more attack weight. And then after that, if you use it again, you're going to have Higher Thunderer, and you're going to have even more attack weight, and you can deal even more damage, and you have these conditions as well. So the whole entire point of the ego is that you want to use it 3 times in a row for a max value. And to help with that, the ego gives you ego resources back if you don't have Thunder or Higher Thunderer to just help you a little bit. But for the rest of the time, you're going to be wanting to calculate how much ego resources you have, and if you're able to actually use this ego 3 times back to back, or else you won't be able to use this fully. And to encourage you to do this even more, you gain permanent damage based on how much Thunder or Higher Thunderer stack you consume. And when you're consuming it, you actually consume it here. If you have Higher Thunder or Higher Thunderer, you consume all of it and gain Higher Thunderer. So even if you have Higher Thunderer, you can consume it again and gain Higher Thunderer to activate this effect of permanent damage up. So this ego really likes being used back to back. Again, the same concept of using back to back. I didn't mention this earlier because it wasn't that important, but Foss also likes being used back to back because you want to keep having that tortoise shell status so that you can keep healing and you can keep having the effects from Foss. And this ego is a primary example of one of the egos that you really want to be using back to back to back, because you gain even more benefits from it, and you gain permanent damage up. And what I like most about this ego is that turn N, you gain resources. Turn N ego generation. We've seen this like from Contemporary Ryoshu, but this is turn N unconditionally. Contemporary Ryoshu, if she was staggered, she wouldn't be able to give you ego resources. This is turn N. This is permanent, as long as Honglu is alive. And you gain, but the thing is, you only gain Sloth, Bloom, Pride, which in my opinion are really good egos. Really good synergies to have. Like if you went into a Pride team, you don't have a lot of Gloom. Like let's just be fair, you're not gonna be having a lot of Gloom, especially if you're running Blade Lineage members. Like you have a little bit of Gloom from Heathcliff, Full Stop Heathcliff, and Full Stop Honglu, but the thing is with most players, they prefer to not use the S1 of Heathcliff, and it's only an S2 for Honglu. So this is gonna help with Gloom, and Sloth also is gonna be helping with that a lot. Full Stop Honglu had Sloth. The main reason why he even had Sloth in the first place is because we lacked quote-unquote good poise identities other than BL Foss to have Sloth, and so you use the S1 of Honglu at the cost of using less effective skills for the remainder of the battle just to have that Sloth affinity. So the fact that you're getting Gloom and Sloth from this ego is extremely good for poise teams. Now for Corrosion, I believe it's going to be an even more powerful version of the base. I mean, no shit, right? But the thing is that it has very similar effects. Exact same concept with Thunder or Higher Thunder, but the thing is with Corrosions, you're going to be using a lot more SP and you're going to be using a lot more resources. So what I recommend to you is to, instead of like using this 3 times in a row, which is unreasonable, I would recommend using this 2 times in a row and then using this. Because you want to finish it off with the gigantic nuke, and the next turn you can just chill out, because I doubt they're going to have enough resources to do a 4th one. And it's going to be very hard to maintain that SP and ego resources. But unlike this previous one, again, it doesn't even give you ego resources back. The base one gives you ego resources, but this doesn't give you ego resources. Further solidifying the fact that this is meant to be like this sort of like ending to your nuke. And what this does, exact same effects as usual, attack weight, even more attack power up, all the exact same thing. But the thing with this is that if you have Thunder or Higher Thunder, you get the exact same amount. So you can use this after Thunder if you want, and you can use this with the Higher Thunder. So you can have 1, 1, 1. So either that or 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. And it doesn't really matter, it's up to preference. But I do recommend just 1, 1, 1, because you gain enough. This is probably more of a nuke, because if you see here, you have bonus Pride damage, you have the exact same conditionals as here, but you have Pride damage, base Pride damage. And this base Pride damage is pretty damn decent, especially when you're having attack weight. And so I think the best way to use this is to use this on 1, and then use 2, and then use 1. Because this has more effects if you have a Higher Thunder and you have more attack weight, while this has more nuking, but it doesn't matter if you have Higher Thunder or not. And all that matters is you have Thunder. So very simple ego out of the way. I think very interesting design as well. I love this ego. I love value-based effects. And the passive here is value-based. So I really like this ego a lot. Next things next. Unbrilliant Glory Gregor, which is a wall ego. Already off the bat, when I saw this ego, I was already kind of pissed. Because Garden of Thorns Gregor is one of my favorite egos like in the game ever. But I guess like looking at the trailer, like this is to be expected. I mean the guy looks so sick. If you saw his animations, you'd understand. And I guess I was expecting a wild ego. I'm just kind of sad that if I wanted to run this, I would have to replace my Garden of Thorns Gregor ego, which is amazing. But another ego extremely focused on using the ego again and again. But this is more in the nature of Tarnished Blood Honglu. If you remember what Tarnished Blood Honglu does, Tarnished Blood Honglu, when you use it, you gain this effect, and you lose HP every turn, and then once you die of that status, you use your gigantic nuke. So this has a similar effect, where you don't deal damage at all. But you don't deal damage to yourself like Honglu, no. You actually gain benefits. With this ego, the goal is to repeatedly use this base ego right here to gain this status, and then you cash out with this. Right, that's a very generic explanation of his ego. But to get into the nitty-gritty details of it, when you use this ego, you heal SP, you gain mana and scabbard. So similar to Honglu, you gain an effect after using it once, But unlike Honglu, you want to keep using this because Man in Scabbard is actually stackable. You can stack this up, and you want to stack this up because at a certain amount of Man in Scabbard, you activate this gigantic nuke skill instead, which is not unflashable skill anymore, but a damaging one at that. So the goal of this ego is you use this to get an effect just like Honglu, but right now it's a benefits like I mentioned earlier, and the benefits are that you heal SP and you gain even more stats, and you gain Mana Scabbard, of course. And with Mana Scabbard, you actually don't even need to worry about it expiring because it doesn't expire, and so it's permanent. And if you wanted to, you could just use this ego, and then you could just leave it be, and then you just have aggro and protection permanently, which is kind of funny. But the main purpose of the ego is to actually cash out here, and besides, you're gonna be getting it back anyway. But that's all for later. And so you have all these effects. You gain a certain amount of Mana Scabbard at turn N. I'm assuming 1, but you can also just use this ego, and then you can use it again to speed up the process. So I believe my own personal theory is that this is gonna be at 4 plus Mana Scabbard, and you're gonna be gaining 1 here, and you're gonna be gaining 1 here. So you're gonna be getting 1, and you need to wait 3 more turns before you get to use this again. And so if you use this on turn 1, you gain this. The next turn after attack, you gain it, and you use it again, you gain 2, and then the next turn you gain 3, and the next turn you gain 4. So you get it in 3 or 2 turns, and I believe 2 turns. It should be 2 turns, yeah. You get it in 2 turns. If I'm wrong, it's gonna be 3 turns. I'm saying if I'm wrong because that's it after effect, right? So if it's after effect, you gain Mana Scabbard 1, and the next turn you gain 2, and the next turn you gain 3, and the next turn you gain 4. So technically it's gonna be 3 turns. And so that's why I'm saying it's might be 2, but if that doesn't imply that it's gonna be 3. Sorry, I'm not too fresh on my Limbus knowledge at the moment about things like that. But you gain this Mana Scabbard passively, or you can keep speeding up with your Sloth. And this is already very good to use because this is a purely beneficial ego. You gain SP, so the ego loss you get from the SP loss you gain from the WoW ego typing, it's not gonna be hurting that much, and you can just gain pure benefits. And so once you have enough of that stack passively, or by using it, or by forcing it, and over here you have even more ways of getting it. Actually, I take back what I said. What was I saying? This is probably gonna be like 7 or 8, because there's a lot of other effects here that help you get it. So they're gonna be 7 or 8, and that's why you're gonna be. I recommend using it multiple times in a turn, multiple times consecutively in a row, and not in a row, but consecutively multiple times just to get to this faster. Because there's a lot of these effects, but these 2 effects are gonna be pretty hard to get, and these other effects are also gonna be hard to get. Even though you're getting it passively, this is probably gonna be a high threshold, like 8 or 7. So just ignore what I just said. Sorry for that. I actually forgot that this passive existed, so forgive me for that. But Mana Scabbard, you gain Mana Scabbard if you have HP damage taken from getting hit, shield damage taken from getting hit, staggered ally from getting staggered, and dead ally from getting killed. So if your allies die, if your allies get hurt, or if you take damage, you're gonna be getting more Mana Scabbard. The issue with this is that these are very defensive-oriented effects, and in Limbus, attack-based effects are much more used than defensive-oriented effects. And so already it's kind of awkward, but the thing is, you gain aggro. So very little help from Gregor is that you're getting aggro. And that helps you get targeted more, and you can try tanking it. But the issue with the ego is that that's not that preferred. Yes, you gain protection, but now you're just kind of forced to not win clashes just to speed it up. Another awkward thing I really don't like is the fact that it specifies HP damage from getting hit. Not even like expired, not even getting like HP damage in general. In which case, Priest Gregor would be so good at this, right? Priest Gregor would be able to fuel this so fast because of the HP damage that he takes by his own self-bleed, and Manager Dawn can give him shield for him to get expired. But because it's specifically on hit, it just makes it so awkward. And so this ego, I really think you should try to speed it up by using this, because this is not going to be happening that often, right? Staggered ally, yes, sometimes. Dead ally, yes, sometimes, especially with how the game direction is going. But for now, it's going to be pretty damn slow to get until the cash out. So I do recommend for now just trying to use this ego multiple times. in the span of a few turns just to get this effect faster, because this is not gonna be very reliable. But you know, maybe I'll be proved wrong. There's gonna be a very tanky Gregor ID that's gonna be focused on using his guard. Who knows, right? But for now, this is a very defensive-oriented ego with defensive-oriented effects. And so turn start, you actually gain a similar effect to be Elmir Salt, in that when you gain stagger on turn start, you literally just cancel the stagger. This specifies if you stagger due to damage, which is interesting. So a boss that turns Sinner staggered, like Cromer, for example. God, Cromer being mentioned in Big 25, but Cromer staggering an enemy like on combat start, on turn start, I think. Yeah, I think after attack on after turn end. So an effect like that is not gonna be affecting Man Skyward. But any other effect, if it's staggered, you'll be recovering from staggering area having very unique resistant values, which is probably gonna be strong against a bunch of other values. So not exactly like a fully invincible effect. Of course, you're gonna be very tanky because of protection, but you're not gonna be fully invincible like BLM Assault. So, with all that said, what is the cash out? The cash out is reuse coin, ego resource refund, attack weight, defense level up, you gain even more damage, protection, a lot of effects. Sorry if you can't keep up, but defense level up, if you have enough stacks consumed, which means you can gain even more past this threshold to gain even more effects. So you can keep stacking it even more and more. And that implies like, oh, you keep going first until like 10 or 12 or something like that. And that means you can also gain even more powerful benefits from this. But you have defense level up, protection, even more damage, and you can reuse coin over here, all these different effects, gigantic nuke, attack weight, reuse coin. You can already tell that this ego effect is going to be doing a lot of damage. I don't even need to specify like one by one, but you can just know that this effect does a lot of damage. And you gain clashable as well. So yeah, you can clash with the skill. And in the very rare case where you don't get to use your Man and Scabbard, and you somehow lose the clash, Ji-hoon graces you with the ability to gain aggro. So if you fail to use the ego and you fail to consume it on turn end, you just gain aggro. So yeah, good for you, man. So, you know, if you're ass at the game, you just gain aggro. But you have to clash with it though, so you know, no comment there. You're forced to clash with it, I'm pretty sure, because it doesn't say you can use it normally. It says becomes clashable, so I'm pretty sure you're forced to clash with it. So if you lose that clash, tough luck, just use it next time. But on use, something that makes it very difficult for this to actually have effect, except for when you lose a clash, is that you can't get staggered if you use this with the right amount of Man and Scabbard. And the thing is, it has the same X over here, so you have enough Man and Scabbard, you literally don't get staggered. So this is a very invincible ego. You can just use it, have a gigantic nuke, attack weight, reuse coin, defense level up, protection, all these different effects, even more damage, heal SP, so many different effects, and you have all that for cashing out. Ego resources as well, just so you can spam this even more. And all the different effects go towards, you gain Man and Scabbard again. Actually, what am I saying? Sorry. You have all these different effects, very invincible ego as well. You can't even get staggered, and so this ego is very, very strong. You can already see from the effects as well. I'm just repeating myself for the third time already. I'm sorry for that. But after that, you gain Man Scabbard again. So the thing about this ego is that even after you cash out, you immediately get Man Scabbard again, and so you can keep stacking it again and again and again and again. So theoretically, this is an amazing ego for Gregor, because you automatically just have permanent aggro and protection. Like, just permanently. You don't even need to cash out with this ego if you wanted to. You can just use this, and you just have permanent protection. And that's really very, very good for Gregor. But with the cash out, you gain even more benefits with the way of, like, all these effects. Damage as well. And I believe that this is going to be one of the highest priority egos. Like, one of the egos you really want to be looking forward to getting. Because this just literally permanent buffs your character permanently. Literally. And this is protection and aggro, so it automatically turns Gregor into an amazing tank. Put this on Priest Gregor, you're sacrificing your healing from Crown of Thorns Gregor, but you are literally gaining one of the strongest permanent effects in Limbus by far, and this is fucking amazing. Like, what do you want me to say? Sloth damage up as well, all the different effects for damage. And so you had this very invincible ego, you had permanent effects, questionable defense oriented gaining methods of like actually using the effects. But now we get into corrosion. Corrosion, if you didn't know, is kind of a horse. It's literally a horse in a corrosion. And so I kind of really want to use it just for the animation, but how good is it, really? So similar effects to Man and Scabbard, the previous one, except this time you're not really like, you don't need to use it. So in case you got kind of like impatient and you have almost the required amount to get this entire effect, but not that much, like you're one off of it, you can use corrosion instead. I wouldn't recommend that. But if you use this corrosion, you consume everything as well, you get even more damage, all these different effects as well, but you don't have the effects like this, like recurrent ego resources, defense, you don't have all these different effects, you only have damage oriented effects. And you gain defense level up and protection, but yeah, okay, whatever. You don't get the ego resources gained, and you don't gain like as much attack weight. Yeah, the ego doesn't give you attack weight at all. So you're gonna have the base attack weight of the corrosion. So it's gonna give you a lot more value in terms of like attack weight and ego resources, and just more damage in general. But the corrosion is not bad in and of itself if you're impatient, and you actually gain even more damage. But same exact effects. The thing is, you lose base power for every cracked coin. So if you lose every cracked coin, this is gonna be not gonna be doing much. So same concept as the previous ego. Win the clash, you're not gonna get enough value from it. By this case, you're actually gonna get aggro a little bit, but this is a lot more punishing, especially since you are gaining 1.5 times the ego resources needed to actually use the ego because it's a corrosion naturally. And turn end, if you use it, you gain aggro. Yep. So you get to use, you get to stack this even faster as well. Again, same thing as here, you gain Man Scabbard again, blah 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 blah. But unlike this ego, this actually gives you aggro after it. So you actually get to stack it faster, which the base ego doesn't get to have, because you only get aggro if you don't actually like fully use the effect. And so this ego actually has a unique benefit that is kind of funny, that it actually makes you build it faster, like very slightly because of additional aggro, but that's a very, very minor effect, right? And that's enough. Yeah, that's enough for the ego review. So just a very quick summary. Ishmael, very base vanilla ego. Gloom resonance, you deal even more damage. Gloom resistance, if they're weaker to it, you deal even more damage. Next up, you have Faust, a competitor to Fluid Sack and Torakagia Faust, a hybrid of the two, healing over time and healing on use, with pretty unique defense level up and protection, and a pretty unique passive to base ego interaction in that you have this effect over here. If this is the last use ego, you actually change the effect that you get over here, and if you use another ego, then you lose that healing over time. So you're gonna be wanting to use this ego again after you use another ego. So very unique ego. Next, we have Honglu, to remain oneself. He ego, its main goal is to be using multiple times, and if you use it multiple times, you get nukes, and you also have corrosion that does the exact same thing, and the order that I recommend it probably that's going to deal the most damage, if you have the resource for it, is 1, 2, 1. And then you actually gain permanent damage whenever you use this, and you have turn and resource if you need to get. I actually didn't mention this, but this replaces Wayward Passenger if you're going to use it. So you're going to be losing one of your revive mechanics if you're going to be using this ego. So just keep that in mind. The other ego I remember is Ambling Pearl, which is in and of itself is not very good. It was mainly used for just clashing. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you want to use this ego. Next we have Gregor. The ego is based around using this for the first time. After that, you're going to be passively stacking it, and you're going to be having defense-oriented effects that are going to be helping you stack it as well. Once you have enough stacking, you're going to be using the ego, and you're going to have a lot of different effects. You're going to be cashing out, you're going to be having AoE, reuse coin, you're going to have ego resources, a lot of different effects, a very strong nuke. And the corrosion, similar thing, except you're going to be mainly wanting to use this if you don't want to wait the full duration. And so that's enough. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you have fun rolling for the egos. I'm definitely going to make a video on rolling, and good luck to your gacha pulls. Thanks for watching.